Just roll with the flow. We do really good when we just don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's true. Don't give a shit. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode...
You like the stage mode. I'm Dr. Ryan Livingston, and this is
No Excuse Charlie.
bringing you the Coffee with the Doc, episode 2.
Episode 2.
All right.
So we got a bunch of questions flowing our way already.
So you have to see it from the side, because this is the sagittal plane. So if you lost your curve, good call. If you lost your curve from the side, you're gonna lose it in this plane. So you're gonna go like this, okay? So you can already guess where this article is going. If you do this, what's gonna happen over time, right? You have literally seen elderly folk and not so elderly folk in the grocery store hunched over. That didn't happen overnight. That's gonna be another week. Just roll with the flow. We do really good when we just don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's true. Don't give a shit. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode...
You like the stage mode. I'm Dr. Ryan Livingston, and this is
No Excuse Charlie.
bringing you the Coffee with the Doc, episode 2.
Episode 2.
All right.
So we got a bunch of questions flowing our way already. I put it out on social media. You had some people reach out to you that wanted some questions answered. So let's dive right into it. We appreciate everybody giving us some questions to answer. First and foremost, Kim asks, what is the best type of mattress and pillow? Now, you're the expert here, so before I defer to you, I want to give a little personal experience on my end.
Okay.
One time I actually thought my arm was gone. I panicked.
Okay.
I had a headboard that had rails on it, on the headboard, and I fell asleep on my arm like this, and I was latched on to one of the poles on the headboard. Well, I woke up, and my arm was completely asleep, obviously numb, and I went, oh, my arm's asleep. So I started going like this. I thought my arm was down here, and I went into a complete panic because my arm was not there. Like, I'm half asleep, mind you, and I freaked out because I couldn't find my arm, and I'm going like this, like, and then finally I located my arm that was numb up here, and then I couldn't get it off because my hands were clenched around the pole.
I've never heard of that before.
I actually had to pry my hands off in order to get functionality in my arm back. But regardless, so I'm this weird sleeper, right? Okay. So I always wake up with pains and different kinks in my neck, and my shoulders are always tight. People make fun of me because they say when I wake up, I walk like this because my shoulders are super tense when I wake up. So I've had a difficult time experimenting with different pillows, using a lot, using a few. Okay. Eventually what happened for me is I settled on just sleeping on my back, almost like I'm in a coffin. So now I sleep completely on my back with my arms folded. Sometimes I get like a little bit of like ulnar nerve cut off where the outside of my hands go numb from being in like this elbow flexion position, but I sleep on my back like this, and I actually have a specialized pillow. Did you know that?
I didn't. Oh, well, maybe I did.
Because you gave it to me.
Okay, that
Of course you did. So I have this CBP pillow, chiropractic biophysics pillow, which is a specialized pillow for proper cervical alignment, and it's basically like a normal pillow, but it's got a hole in it. And it's got like this trash can lid that flips up, and the back of your head goes in that hole, so there's a little bit of a roll on the neck, which kind of gives, again, that cervical curve, which my neck does not have, but should. Is getting better. We're in the process of fixing it. So that has been the pillow that works best for me, but I know that a lot of people, the reason I went on that tangent is I know that a lot of people have issues with different mattresses and different pillows, and they're constantly waking up in pain. And it seems to me that if you don't have a specialized pillow, that the best option could potentially be no pillows at all for some people. So again, you're the expert, so we'll defer to you on that one.
Okay. Can you grab our beautifully placed spinal model?
This spinal model?
Yes.
Right here. Okay, here's the spinal model.
Excellent.
Yes.
So, the most important thing to keep in mind, always come back to, what are your coaching instructions for your athletes as far as starting position? Do you have any coaching points?
A lot of it depends on where their starting position is, anatomically speaking, based on lifestyle things. So some people are kind of anterior tilted, posterior pelvic tilt. The one thing that we always talk about is like spine neutrality.
My coaching point was this when I did personal training, was always, and I got this from Jalen Azar. I don't know if I ever introduced you to him. Professional bodybuilder, trained with Dorian Yates. always said chest up, shoulders back. And this was before I even got into the spine and the world of medicine, or all around the spine. Chest up, shoulders back, head in line with the body. And so I would always walk around like this. Mm-hmm. Effectively, what you should have is true healthy, normal posture. Chest up, shoulders back, and dropped. Most people are like super tense.
So kind of retract and depress the shoulders a little bit.
Right. Neck, text, and tech, like technology, which we'll introduce in a minute, heart rate variability, are both actual things that occur. They're now medical diagnosis. And that's the loss of the curve. So always I start with chest up, shoulders back, head in line with the body. With patients, it's start with spinal neutral. What is a normal alignment, an ideal alignment of the spine, is a C-shaped curve in the neck, the opposite C-shaped curve in the mid-back, and then that same C-shaped curve in the low back. Always start with those, with that little, not slogan, but the little cue for patients. And the reason we start with that is because you're gonna start there, but then you're gonna keep that normal alignment, and then you're just gonna lay on your side, right? So you should still have a spine that's straight, front to back, except now you're on your side. But what happens when you're on your side? If you're someone like Charlie who has big shoulders and you lay on your side, now you're gonna like bend to the side, okay? And then if your legs are extremely heavy, then the lower lumbar part of your spine isn't gonna be in neutral. You put a pillow between your legs, a thick pillow between your legs. You put enough of a pillow to gap your shoulders. So for Charlie, that would be a huge pillow if he's sleeping on his side. Now, again, back to the reality is we don't recommend sleeping on your side. We do recommend sleeping on your back. Again, healthy, normal, ideal alignment of the spine. If you're gonna use a pillow, you need to get, either don't use a pillow at all, start with a towel, roll it up thick, put it here, puts that C-shaped curve back in your neck. The worst thing you can do is put a bunch of pillows under your head, which would be like right here, because then you're gonna do this all night. And you do that for 8 hours a day. That's worse than texting, because now you're in this constant chronic text or tech neck position.
And I know that I've been in cycles where I would try to experiment with different sleep patterns.
Yeah.
That one of the things that, and it's kind of ironic because you think that you're helping yourself because you find comfort, but really it's destroying you, is loading up a stack of pillows directly underneath the head, and everything is flat except for my head, which is tilted like this because I got this big old stack, and then I would fall asleep like that and feel good doing it. So again, there's irony in the fact that you think that you're helping, but it's really the opposite.
Yeah, is in a certain true posture, and true posture is what does your spine look like? Not just posture is what you look like externally. True posture is a term I coined, and I need to trademark, but is what your spine actually looks like. That's true posture. And so another thing that someone like Charlie would need to do or could do that would help a lot is he may, if he's sleeping on his side, he may stack up pillows to prop his head up, like enough pillows to gap here, but with his shoulders even further gap. But he also would put a pillow under his right arm so that when he's laying on his side, he's got such a wide rib cage and muscular development that he may also need to put a pillow on his side. So that's a lot for side sleep.
Yeah.
But if you're on your back, just one behind your neck, potentially one behind your low back. You need one that is scientifically proven. There's only one pillow, and it's unfortunate, but it's real. You see all these people marketing about pillows, but look at what they're marketing for. Oh, no more pain, this and that. Well, you can get out of pain by assisting and allowing your body. Here, you can take this. By allowing your body to compensate, to assist it in its compensated posture. However, you need a pill that corrects your spinal issues, and there's only one that does that, and that is not, and it's taken decades of research, and it is the CBP pillow. If you think you found one that is actually medically researched and proven, I haven't seen it. So send it to me, and we'll be glad to look at it. But I can almost promise you it's not.
So as a layperson trying to navigate this, it seems like, as you alluded to, laying on your side is very comprehensive as far as a plan that you need to have to stack pillows here, stack pillows there, stack on this shoulder. It depends on your size a lot. Whereas ultimately the best kind of protocol for sleeping would just be lie straight on your back, get some type of a neck curve or like a towel like you recommended, or a CBB pillow that's just gonna tilt the head back, and then potentially one on the low back if your spinal alignment calls for it.
Right.
So do you think that people should try to, if I'm a side sleeper and that's something that I'm comfortable in, do you think that I should try to work myself to being a back sleeper just through practice and routine? Because I know when I got my CBP pillow,
that's it.
It was actually really difficult for me, because even though I was a back sleeper to start, I would often wake up and was more comfortable on my side. So when I started using the CBP pillow, what happened was I would start with this, my neck was aligned, I felt good, I would fall asleep, and then after a little bit I'd wake up, be uncomfortable, chuck the thing across the room, go back to how I would normally sleep. So I noticed that it was kind of like incremental. It was just progressive. So one night I would wake up like an hour later and toss the pillow. Then it was an hour and a half. Then it was 2 hours. Then it was 2.5 hours. Then it was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I would last a little bit longer with the pillow each time until I was able to go a full night's sleep with it, which is where I would be at now.
I don't think there's, a lot of my colleagues may have a different opinion, but I don't think there's any mattress that's right. So it's going to be the mattress that it allows you to assume that healthy posture that we just showed you, whether it's a firm one or it's a soft one, and that's all going to base itself around your I'll call it the stiffness score. There's no methodical way, scientific way to actually measure that. However, it's how stiff is your back. Like if I take an X-ray of your spine, like we set you up on a dental roll orthotic for your neck. Mm-hmm. Take the X-rays, and if somebody's neck just stays, like say they have forward head posture, if their neck just stays that way while they're laying on it, and you take the X-ray, they have an extremely stiff neck, and that's one of the actually, not contraindications, but the indications that a spinal corrective care program may not actually benefit them very much, at least not at that point. So when we do that stuff in the office, we'll show you, hey, look, you're a great candidate for spinal correction, or you're not. Now, obviously, that's not the majority of people, but it happens. So maybe those people, a softer bed would be better. But whatever allows you to normalize. And it's going to change as you get your spine corrected.
Now, will you be able, is that something that you can kind of sense on your own, get like a little bit of like an intuitive feel for it? Like as you're going, you say, this is a little bit too soft for me now. I think I might need a firmer mattress, or vice versa.
Yep, but you got to give it time too as you start making these adjustments.
Cool.
These changes.
All right, next question. Michelle asks, what diet to follow for someone who has never dieted?
Yeah.
I will start with this one personally, because this is something that happens all the time. Now, I have to go on the soapbox for a minute. One of my pet peeves, and I've gone on about this on other podcasts, is I feel like, and you've probably experienced this as well, I feel like people don't give themselves enough credit for having a foundational knowledge of nutrition, which most people do. So I have a lot of people that will tell me, I don't diet because I don't know what I'm doing. And I feel like it could be as elementary as classifying foods as good food or bad food. Everything can kind of be categorized into one of those two paradigms. Now, obviously, there's going to be some overlap and it's situationally dependent, but most people have a little bit of like intuition when it comes to nutrition to understand that healthy foods or clean foods, however you want to coin it, are going to be whole single ingredient foods that nature produces. And then really you can kind of group almost everything else in the alternative category, the bad foods or what have you. So I feel like most people have the ability to follow a diet that's going to be largely healthy for them and kind of lead them to the health improvements or physique improvements or longevity improvements or whatever they're looking for. So go on that rant for a minute. Usually never, and this is something that you and I have talked about, typically when I work with clients, when we write up a nutrition protocol, it depends on what type of situation the person's in. So if it was somebody that's a competitor, which is a large amount of my clientele or my caseload, we follow specific diets because we're constantly tracking and reassessing.
Right.
So where we have a caloric value that we're looking at, we have macro splits, like how much protein, how many carbs, how many fats. Those are all things that we track. And if we're continuing to track them, then we need them to stay pretty stagnant. And sometimes we even be repetitive with food choices, because you could look at food intolerances or different types of sensitivities. However, if it was someone that's a non-competitor, we like to do something just where we're making healthier choices and they're more lifestyle based. So for someone who's never dieted, it could be something as simple as do one change that's foundationally going to be beneficial to you and stick with it for a couple weeks till it becomes habitual, and then branch off to something else. So it could be something as simple as drink more water. Do that for 3 weeks, because that's going to elicit some type of a positive response for you. So I always, if somebody who's never dieted before, I don't really start with a diet. I just start with tiny incremental changes that can eventually manifest into progress based on just making those habits. So drink more water could be the first couple weeks. Eliminate fast food for someone, the first couple weeks or whatever. So what type of diet programs or things do you look at for clients or patients who have never done anything before? They've never followed a diet, they don't have any structure, they don't even know where to start in their own estimation.
First, before I answer that, you talked about tracking foods. Is there a way for the listeners out there that have no concept of carbs, fats, protein, and I'm not a big proponent of those things, of tracking those things solely, which are called macronutrients. Is there a way for somebody to do that quickly and efficiently, or how do they do that?
So one way that you could go about is hire a coach, and someone like myself who will do nutrition consultation with you and kind of go over these things and teach you those. An app that I recommend to people is MyFitnessPal. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Basically, it's an app that you put in everything you eat for the day, and it's kind of like a mini tech coach that doesn't give you that specific of feedback. So there's a little nuance that's not. It's not going to be a foolproof method, but what you can do is you can put in the foods you eat. It tells you, how many grams of protein you eat, how many grams of carbohydrates you eat. Now, he talked about macronutrients. It also tracks micronutrients, so different vitamins and minerals and electrolytes that you're taking in. So it tracks that stuff too, and it kind of can give you a gauge for progress because it gives you like different benchmarks. Like if I'm trying to lose 1 pound every 2 weeks, this would be the caloric value that I would need to eat every day. And it basically can tell you how much food you have left. So if I am aiming for 2,400 calories per day and, I ate a couple meals and I still have some extra calories to eat, it will tell you exactly how many calories I have left. So you can kind of plan your food choices accordingly. So, and I'm sure that there's more apps out there. I just know that MyFitnessPal is a really, really popular one. I don't know if there's any that you know specifically other than that, but I'm sure there's tons.
No, I just wanted you to give a real quick answer on, MyFitnessPal was it. That's the one I highly recommend, and here's another reason why I highly recommend it. Might as well jump into this before we hit the next question. Since we're talking about it, MyFitnessPal is free, number one. Number two, you can get a professional version of it. I don't know what all that entails. I would gladly pay for it. I just haven't had the need for it. It tracks macronutrients right now, and more importantly, it's gamifying things. It rewards you or gives you little badges and things for hitting so many days. I have my Garmin watch, which is part of the tech thing that I wanted to introduce, and has to do with our research article for the week too. Heart rate variability. This Garmin watch,
which also tells time.
Yeah, that's one of the things it does. It's solar powered. It lasts, I believe, like 57 days or can do that on like low mode, which is freaking awesome. Amazing GPS. It gamifies things. It links with MyFitnessPal.
Okay,
so
cool.
Literally what I'm looking at right now is, I believe that says 981 calories. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately it's 6 o'clock and I've only eaten 981 calories. I eat a lot of carrots. That's probably why. I get close to 100 grams of fiber a day. That's probably not a good thing. Just kidding. But Garmin tracks it. It's extremely easy to integrate here. You got your steps. You can also integrate, what was the other? With Garmin has their own app, heart rate variability. You can also do heart rate variability these are the things that we track with our athletes. We're going to track your heart rate variability for like 5 minutes. This tracks your heart rate variability, which is a measure of your autonomic nervous system, which tells your athletes whether or not they should train that day and can train that day. That's a little meticulous, but at a very elite level, that's something that's very important. Especially, this would be great if you're not already doing, to test the waters the next couple times somebody's doing a show and watch what happens to their nervous system as they're getting closer to the show. Are they getting extremely stressed out with whatever you're adding or taking away from their diet.
How does that differentiate between heart rate? So we know that heart rate is the amount of times that your heart beats within a given sample size.
Yeah.
So beats per minute is the one that's generally used and accepted as like kind of the benchmark.
Yeah.
What is HRV and how does it compare to just your normal heart rate?
Great question. Right now I'm looking at my heart rate, which is about 62 beats a minute. So that's pretty good. It could be a lot better, and it will get better as I get better. A very well endured athlete could possibly be even as low as 40 to somewhere between 40 and 50, which I would personally say that's a great goal to hit. 50 beats per minute at resting is phenomenal. That's just beats per minute. Beats per second over a course of a minute. Heart rate variability is the time between each beat.
Okay.
And the reason that's important, can you grab the spine model again?
This spine model.
Yes, this spine model.
Got it.
So the reason this is important is because I'm still tracking my heart rate variability. So the reason this is important is because your body, the brain and the spinal cord control your sympathetic nervous system or your autonomic nervous system. You have sympathetic, parasympathetic, fight or flight, rest and digest. Everyone's pretty much heard those terms. I'm sure you even talk about that with your athletes. The heart rate variability is a function of your body's autonomic nervous system. That thing that you do not control, or the thing which you can't largely control, but you can control if you learn through meditation and things of that nature. But heart rate variability is the time between beats, which is controlled automatically without you thinking about it. Just like your lungs are breathing or perfusing oxygen without you thinking about it, right? You can slow down that breath, or you can control and speed up that breath.
So what you're saying is your heart rate could be 60 beats per minute, which we have evidence to track that.
Yeah.
Mine could be 60 beats per minute,
Yeah.
but we could have completely different HRVs.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you could have an HRV that beats one beat every 1 second, whereas mine could kind of ebb and flow. I could have two that happen pretty quickly and then a little bit of a pause. And I know that we're probably talking milliseconds that are accounting for that much of a difference, but do we want the HRV to be as consistent as possible?
No.
Okay.
And here's why. Your body should be able to adapt to things. If I scream real loud right now, your body's gonna tense up for a couple seconds and your heart rate's gonna increase. That's just a natural phenomenon that your body should be able to pick up and adapt to.
Yeah.
If you see a lion, your sympathetic nervous system is going to kick in. That variance between each heartbeat better shrink, because you better be able to stand up real fast and go. Consistent heart rate variability. So like one beat, 3 beats, or 1 second, 2 seconds, 8 seconds. But again, it's in milliseconds, and those aren't examples, but you get the point. And you also want it to be relatively high.
Okay.
In milliseconds. So a very unhealthy, and we can give you guys links to the normative data, which is a good estimation of what somebody his age or my age, male, would be in heart rate variability. And then you can track that. And that's another thing we do with patients as well, because that's going to improve as your spinal health improves. And that's one of those things that you're not feeling. Okay? And I could get down into the details of you actually are feeling it by the way of, you're waking up really tired. It's not because you didn't eat right that day or the day before. And it's not because you didn't have enough water, because you tracked it and you did have enough water. It's because your nervous system's off right now. Why is it off? Could be a spinal subluxation. Something's messed up with your spine. That's what I'm gonna say it is usually, right? Because your neurology changes every day. You can take that back. That's heart rate variability. Is an asymptomatic thing, which we'll get into on other podcasts too. More of the things that you can track that are asymptomatic.
Cool. So we kind of went on a
huge
tangent from the diet question, but next question.
Actually, sorry about that. That's actually a good thing too. Like the healthier you are and the more healthy you eat, that also affects your heart rate variability. So all these things are integrated extremely.
And I think that was kind of the impetus that kind of started you and I connecting the dots with each other and feeling that this was a good partnership is the synergy between all the areas of expertise that we work with. So whether it's training and performance, whether it's nutrition, whether it's chiropractic care, all of that is aligned, no pun intended, to create the perfect healthy person. So if we're looking to create someone that has ultimate health and ultimate performance, ultimate longevity, and ultimate well-being, you're going to have to incorporate all these different areas, the nutrition, the training, the chiropractic care. So I think that that's important to note.
Yeah.
Third question. Greg asks, my lower back always hurts. What are some first steps needed to fix it?
Oh.
So this is a great question because I get this all the time from my athletes. So first and foremost, one of the things that we have to address is, and I don't know if there's a way to quantify this. I wish that there was. Maybe you have a possible way to quantify it. You have to be able to discern between lower back hurting because of pain and lower back hurting because of muscle tissue working the way it should. So the primary example that I deal with all the time is any type of hip hinge movement. So let's take a deadlift. Whether it's like a trap bar deadlift or a traditional deadlift, people will finish doing a deadlift and externally everything looks like it's cued correctly as far as form and technique goes, and they'll say, oh, my lower back hurts. Or the next day, I'll talk to an athlete and they'll say, oh, well, my lower back really hurt from those deadlifts. I don't think they should do them. So if you get done doing deadlifts one day, and the next morning you wake up and your lower back sore, some people think that's indicative of having a bad lower back, where it could just be you worked the tissue that you were supposed to work, so it's a little bit sore, just like any other body part. So I think it's important to, again, discern between lower back pain being a result of injury or something that could be a potential injury, or just lower back pain from working it correctly. One of the things that I see all the time with the lower back, as far as how it manifests itself in pain, is the lower back not being strong enough. So sometimes people come in with back pain that's chronic and bothersome to them, and it's just because they don't have any strength back there because they've never trained it. Which kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg? Sometimes when their lower back hurts, they avoid putting any stress on it completely, which weakens it, which kind of exacerbates the issue. So, and then you could look at potential core weaknesses as a cause for that. So there's so many different things that could be the root cause of your back pain. But I just wanted to throw that kind of disclaimer out there that it's important to know, is your back pain injury or is your back pain just working the tissue? Which I'm assuming this person says that it's always hurting, so I'm assuming it's not a result of training specific. So how do you go about, for someone who doesn't have x-rays, someone who doesn't regularly see a chiropractor like yourself, what are the initial steps? Let's just assume they're on their own, that they can go back to help mitigate the lower back pain that they're getting.
Yeah. I would be excited and surprised if you actually knew this. There are lots of studies in the medical literature around spinal alignment, degeneration, and then atrophy of specific muscles.
Okay.
So we're specifically talking about like the quadratus laborum muscles, any of those multifidi, or any of those muscles that are really, really involved in the pure, it's too easy to say core right now, but are purely involved in the stabilization of the spine.
And I think when people think of posterior chain as it relates to lower back pain, people think of your erectors, so the low back muscles that people coin that go up your spine.
And what do you mean about posterior, for those of us?
So posterior, just referring to the back, anterior referring to the front. So when we talk about posterior, that just means the backside.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So I think that when people think about the posterior, they think about lower back, obviously, and glutes. And they don't understand like the QL and the other nuanced muscle groups that kind of go into that. So I think that it's important to differentiate there and let people understand that, hey, there's a lot more going on than the low back isn't just the low back.
Yeah. And this is important for so many different reasons. It's too easy to go on tangents, at least for us, right? Regardless of the method, using advanced imaging is you will be able to differentiate a long-term standing injury versus a short-term standing injury based on what those MRIs or those advanced imaging show. So you're gonna see that people with poor spinal alignment, like I was just mentioning, have complete atrophy and they don't even have those muscles. And the reason I say that again is because in a condition or in a clinical situation for like you, if you don't know that, you could think that they have weak, they actually do have weak back muscles, and it could go both ways. Either A, they may be trying to train that, but they may be using, if they're not training properly, what muscles are they actually firing? Mm-hmm. Okay, and that is extremely specific. Like, takes a very good expert to know how to cue those things, which I'm sure you're very good at. But if you don't know to look for it, it's like, remember when I taught you about the neck exercises?
Yep.
If you have forward head posture, you've most likely lost the strength of the wrong muscle groups in your neck. You need to strengthen the anterior muscles, not the posterior ones. The anterior ones are too weak. Okay? So you have to be able to retract but not pull down.
And you actually showed me that when we do this retraction, if our head isn't tilted the right way, it could actually be exacerbating the problem and making it worse.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you're in that proper posture, so to speak, with that head tilt, and then doing your retraction.
Correct. The point is that you've got to perform the exercise correctly, and the only way to know that is, unfortunately, the truth is that a lot of my physical therapists out there get this wrong. Mm-hmm. And I know that for a fact because I'll have the patient come in and I will show them on a DMX, a digital motion x-ray, and I will show them on a motion series x-ray what happens when they correctly perform the exercise. And did I show you those?
Yep.
So I've showed Charlie here those. You can see in real time. Now, a trainer or a therapist, physical therapist, can guess, like they learned in school, what muscles are working, but you don't know what muscles are working unless you actually test it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's just a fact. I mean, I guess that's the only way to say it. So back off tangent, it's very difficult. We're talking about extremely high level stuff here though. So an average person with low back pain, if you've never had your spine x-rayed before, if you've never had your spine analyzed and assessed, you have to start there.
Yeah.
You just have to.
It would be like, I feel like at that point, it would just be throwing darts at an invisible dartboard. You have no idea where it's located. You're just taking guesses in time, and it's really not that difficult to go get x-rays.
It's not. And it is not costly. It is one of the best investments you can ever make. A couple $100s for some x-rays, depending on where you go. Your insurance might even cover it. You can't, back to the deadlifts, you can't deadlift, you can't squat. You can do all these things on an unstable structure, but then you're going to get the spine and the low back of a lot of people who I won't call out on this for HIPAA reasons. No, just kidding. But man, there's a reason why there's certain discs that herniate. Or there's over 220 ligaments in the spine, and only 23 of those are your discs. Okay, and only of those 23 discs, only about 5 of them are ever herniated in some capacity. Mm-hmm. We won't get into the nuances of herniations, sequestrations, bulges, etc. But the point is, let's just call them all disc herniations for the common person. Yeah, so you can't. You just do yourself a favor, because it's way more than just back pain. Low back pain, where are those muscles going? Or where are those muscles going? Where are those nerves going? That's reproductive issues that you could be having. You're going to be having colon issues, and you think it's nutrition, but you're working with their diet, and they're like, they've got a perfect diet, but they're still getting irritable bowel syndrome, or they're flaring up their Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, and it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what's going on in the lower back, as far as spinal hygiene goes. So start with that, right? Start with x-rays. If you're not going to get x-rays, the next, or some type of imaging, you can back to the posture analysis thing. I'll do those for you guys for his clients, pro bono. All you gotta do is take the postural pics. We can check you, see what's going on there. That's an indication, but like we already said last time, what am I going to tell you to end up doing? Get x-rays again.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do anything without them. right? I mean, that's just my personal.
What was the saying you said earlier? I'm drawing a blank now. You said we don't guess, we check or something.
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to X-ray imaging, we don't guess, we test. Why? Because we don't want to make guesses with your health. Okay, so we're not going to guess what your spine looks like just with partial pics or just like watching you walk. And unfortunately, back to physical therapists, they are not licensed to X-ray, so they're not going to ever X-ray, and they're not going to believe X-ray is important because they're not taught that, right? A surgeon's not going to ever do corrective care like I do because they're surgical specialists. If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So there's nothing wrong with it, but get the X-rays first, then allow a physical therapist that's really good at what they're doing, assist with the spinal correction. And now I'm on another tangent, but you get the point, right?
Yep.
And there are so many exercises. Once you have that foundation, there's so many exercises that he's gonna take care of, right? I'm gonna adjust you, or your chiropractor is gonna adjust you. If you have an awesome physical therapist, the physical therapists I work are functional movement gurus. Like that doesn't even have the word physical therapy in it. They're functional movement gurus, right? I'll shout out Matt Zanis on here, Dr. Matt Zanis. I'll tag him in this too. Like he'll tell you, he doesn't have a single exercise program that's not specific. He's like, I won't even. He goes down the rabbit hole like I do with the spine. I don't know. That answered some of your questions. There are some typical exercises that we can do. Perhaps we can put together a couple of those for people.
Cool. Maybe in the form of an ebook or something we could do?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
We'll have to know a little bit more about what's going on here.
Yeah.
Because that's a so hard to answer question. When you have the information, it's easy. Go ahead.
So we kind of finished up with our questions now. We always like to close up shop with some actionable steps that you like to say. So research article, maybe some giveaways. Yeah. So what do we got for our listeners that they can take away from the episode today, in addition to the wealth of knowledge that we just bestowed upon them?
Great question. So number one, I wanted to show them the giveaways that we were going to do.
Cool.
So we'll do the first 20 people.
Okay.
We'll get this bone broth breakthrough book. This goes back to the collagen that we were talking about. This is Ancient Nutrition's collagen. We don't support any particular one company per se. I really like this one just because I also know the owner. Seems like a good quality.
Have some in my coffee as we speak.
Yeah, so do I. And before you get the supplement, learn how to cook. Okay, like we're both extremely adamant about that. We'll have other episodes where we bust out some extremely quick, efficient recipes because we don't have time. That's not our excuse.
No excuses.
Yeah, exactly. No excuses, nation, right? We do not make the excuse that we don't have time to cook healthy. If I can do it and he can do it, you can do it. Okay, I promise you. We'll show you how to do it in like 5-minute recipes. Easy. You will have to have a couple things like an Instapot, an air fryer would help, and a Vitamix or a Blendtec blender. Yes, they're investments, but they're going to save you all the time in the world, and more time and more health means more money for you.
And right? What better investment than in your own health, I would think, right?
I agree. So here's the book. We'll give away a couple of these as well. This is a hardback cover. This goes into way more detail and gives you recipes. Again, helps you both utilize the collagen in recipes, but also how to make your own bone broth. And it's a little like transformation book. You could follow the 30-day program if you want. That's up to you. And it teaches you about all the benefits, smoothies, etc. for the collagen. We'll give away, and we'll have a discount. We'll give away a jar of this, a jar of bone broth,
cool
protein, and then we'll have a sale on it at some point too.
Awesome.
For your clients, your athletes.
Now, what is the giveaway? How do I get this? Because I see these. I see that you're giving them away. How do I pick up one of these? How do I get one of those? What do I have to do?
Message you or
me,
myself,
or you.
We'll include our Instagrams in the handles, or our handles below again, right and left. And then also, I'm gonna put up a landing page
Okay.
that they can go to. They can just enter their information. And then from there on out, as we put together information, we actually already have a couple books that we've put together. Couple mini books that are important. And we'll differentiate into what you guys actually want. But we'll get more on that later. We'll just get you into the database and figure out what the hell you want, and then we'll sort you guys out from there. So that'll be in the show notes as well.
Got it.
What else? So that was a giveaway, how they can contact us, and research article. Cut. I don't have that yet.